It means the world to me to be here in Northern Kentucky. Well, it couldn't have happened without the city of Erlanger. They were completely instrumental in this support. It's such a wonderful thing for them to be able to come out and let everyone know that we are here.
Got it!
I love seeing a residential piece of property turn into a thriving business. Transitioning them into a professional office use is it's exactly what we are wanting to see all along Commonwealth.
It's wonderful. It's actually part of my business model. My other practice location is also in a home. It was a big draw for me to be able to have the support of the city of Erlanger with the grants and everything that they provide.
We're truly hopeful that they will set the example for others to follow.
Part of the appeal was location, and location. I knew that this is not a residential street. This is the gateway to Erlanger.
Letting businesses who want that traffic, letting businesses come in and take over some of those houses and improve the structures, improve the look, and be a vital part of our community is just a wonderful thing.
Erlanger is probably one of the most business-friendly environments in all of Northern Kentucky. We thought, why not invest in those homes, provide money from the city to start your dream.
To encourage business development on and around Commonwealth Avenue, the City of Erlanger offers something known as a CAP grant. Eligible businesses in the residential to office conversion zone and mixed use zone can obtain a 50% reimbursement up to $40,000 for exterior and interior capital improvements in converting a residential property to an office or constructing a new office building. All told, it maxes out at a $20,000 investment from the city.
When people leave here, they come in, they just rave about this property, and I think we could have them up and down the Commonwealth corridor with some effort and some work from the city and some developers and realtors that could see the same vision that I have.
I see Commonwealth as a main street. So it is the main thoroughfare through our city, and it has the potential to become an economic driver. We've seen that with Bob McNichol's property and his financial business. We've seen that with Rose Gynecology. These are two exceptional examples of what the possibilities are for all of Commonwealth.
We believe in this district. We believe in you as an investor, and we really want to see that come to fruition.
The entire time that I've been involved in the city of Erlanger, I have always heard that our department is one that is revered. It is one that is held in high esteem.
We thought with our 75th anniversary being this year, what better time to, get all the officers out together, and we'll celebrate the 75th anniversary, and we'll also do our national night out and kind of, just be in the community and celebrate with everybody.
I think that's one of the most important things that we can do as public servants, and law enforcement is absolutely crucial, is interacting with your community on a regular basis so that when it is an emergency and it is one of the worst days of your life, you're seeing somebody that you're familiar with.
One of the things that we want to showcase is Erlanger Police Department is cutting edge in training. We're cutting edge in the equipment that we have.
But the canines are always the fan favorite. I mean, officers are great. Canines are like,
The officers that we hire, just their them personally, are great people.
there is a loyalty and a support system that are in place in the city of Erlanger that give the police officers the confidence that is necessary in order to go out and do their job the most effectively and compassionately as they possibly can.
We are very, very proud of our officers. Thanks everybody for coming out to our 75th anniversary.
All right, guys. We'll go ahead and get started for tonight's City Council caucus meeting. The first item on the agenda for discussion is tax rates. Woo! All right. So I'm going to go down to the podium because I want to be able to look at you all. Okay? And I really just don't like... Come on, Vicki, don't set that expectation. All right, I'm going to come down to the podium. All right, we ready? So you guys have a couple of papers in front of you. So I wanted to be able to give you a little bit of historical data. So as you can see, for property tax, let's talk about property tax rate first. We've been consistently reducing the tax rate for 9 years. My suggestion, my recommendation for this year is a slight decrease in order to make it our 10th consecutive decrease in property tax rate. So the compensating rate would have been 249, and I'm recommending 0.247. Our existing rate is 0.248. The difference in the 0.249 and 0.247 is $19,000. So, and we can talk about the revenues that it brings in. It still exceeds what we have budgeted. All right, any questions on property tax rate? Because the good stuff is for the tangible. Yeah.
I'd like to have the raw data sent to us so that we can see the variance between each of the tax rates and what was recommended, or what compensating rate +1, +2, +3, +4 is like we've historically been provided.
Can we just pull that up? No deal. All right, we'll get it to you. I'll move forward while we're working on that. So tangible tax rate is a little more complicated. All right. And I put some information in front of you to try and explain the situation that we've uncovered over the past week when we received the assessments from the PVA. So Sherry does the calculation. She gets confirmation from the ad because they do the calculation as well. Sherry actually found an issue. Her number was slightly different than the ads this time around. And we were able to identify that the state had sent an incorrect number to the ad. And the number that they had sent Sherry was accurate. So Sherry runs our calculation for compensating rate for the property tax and the tangible tax rate. What you see in front of you is the third piece of paper that I've given you is the tax assessment from the PVA. So this top graphic, it shows the 2022, 2023, 2024, the real property assessment for those 3 years. And then it has the exemptions. And then it has the 2023, or 2022, 23, and 24 personal property assessment, and then the taxable additions and deletions. If you go down to the very bottom, graphic, it says the personal property assessment breakdown. I want to draw your attention to the highlighted boxes. Okay, so if we remember back to last year, the 2023, we saw this insane increase in our assessed value. So we saw the assessed value go from 125 million to 201 million. Okay, and then if you pay more attention to the line below where we're talking about inventory finished goods, we went from 49 million to 135 million. Okay, and while we were thinking that this was some beautiful increase in the number of, the amount of inventory that we had within the city, what we have found out within the last 24 hours is that there is an issue with our 2023, and that there is $49 million that was miscategorized. And the way that it explains, it's one business, actually, and I'm not going to name the business, but their inventory was misclassified as inventory in a warehouse when it should have been classified as inventory in transit. And inventory in transit is not subject to the city tax rate. So unfortunately, this was communicated via a phone conversation with myself and the PVA. So that $49 million has been removed from our 2023 tax rolls and will not be in further tax rolls. Okay? So what that means is the tax rate that we set last year was artificially lower than it should have been. Okay, and you know, I've discussed this with Jack, and this is something new. We've not really ever had this situation before where there has been this level. I mean, I don't think there's any tangible asset issue that we've had. And then on top of it, to have it be $49 million worth of assets. I mean, when you think about, when you look at the line right here, this is 49 million alone. So the mess up is just as much as we normally have as value. Okay, so what does that mean? We set a tax rate last year of 0.198%. It was something like a 20-some-odd% decrease in the tax rate because it went from 0.296, and then the compensating rate would have been 0.191. So we wound up taking comp plus 4, but it was still a huge decrease. But it was only a huge decrease because we had inaccurate data. So what do? Well, we can't change what we've done in the past. Okay, so we are going to have to eat those costs. So it's going to stay at, you know, this past year, it's 0.198, and that will not change. We're not going to go back and reset the comp rate and reset a tax rate and go back out to all the businesses and get additional revenue. We're not going to do that. We're just going to have to fix it this year. Okay? So the other issue is, in my issues, my number 2, it's been identified that there are businesses that aren't present on the 2024 personal property assessment certified rolls. And unfortunately, some of the businesses that have been identified that aren't on the rolls are some of our larger businesses, one of which includes $20 million of valued assets from 2023. So those are certified rolls, so they're not going to change. So any dollars that we receive that are beyond that what's listed in the certified rolls, they're going to be categorized as, help me, omitted tangible revenues. And penalties and fees, yes. So, you're probably wondering why there's 48 million and not more sitting in that inventory on the 2024. And that would be why, that we're missing some of our larger businesses in those tax rolls. So, yeah.
So are we going to recoup what we missed from the omitted? Oh, you can't do
Well,
that?
yeah, the omitted will come eventually.
Okay.
Yep, but that comes from the state.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's a different process. Yep.
So I'm still,
This is like really like in the weeds, in the,
I know, but we got to,
Yeah.
I mean, we got to understand it.
yep.
So between the 2023 and 2024 inventory and finished goods, that's $87 million decrease.
I know.
How is that possible?
And Jennifer, I share the exact same question that you have, and I've asked the same exact question to Darlene and Melinda at the PVA. They can only explain for right now the 49 million and attribute it to a data entry error.
So, and the businesses that are missing, were they included last year and then not included? How does someone get removed from a certified roll?
So it's when you file your federal tax return. So these are businesses that may or may not have filed an extension. So they would miss when the certified roll is sent down to the state, but it doesn't mean that they are exempt from paying the taxes on the tangible assets. And that's when the omitted, so our omitted revenue will then probably be higher.
And then my other question is, how much is our revenue going to decrease from this $49 million mistake?
Well, the $49 million mistake only costs the city $97,000. So we're going to have to pay back that company the $97,000 that they, in error, paid the city. But then in the tax rolls that we have for 2024, it's not listed, so it's not counted into this most recent calculation.
And why did we just find this out?
Because we just got the numbers from the PVA. It's very tight time frame. It's very tight.
I mean,
if we can talk about legislation changes and figure out how to get this pushed up into the summer a little bit and give us more time, that would be
But
great.
there's some cities that have literally already voted on their property tax rate.
There's also some that
Oh, I know, there's a lot that
haven't
haven't. We usually don't talk about it until now.
Yeah.
That's why I was surprised that there were cities that had already discussed it.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
But I just don't, I'm very, how did somebody find out about it in May and we just found out about it?
I've asked that same question.
Yeah,
I've
that's-
gotten an apology and a promise to do better.
From?
The PVA. It's been a lengthy conversation. Yes.
Do you know how many businesses are involved?
Just this particular 49 million is just one.
One?
Yeah. Yep. And, you know, the response from the woman at the PVA was, you know, it had to be this big of a number for the mistake. So, I mean, they're expressing their deepest apologies, and they're sick over it. I'm sick over it. This is not at all what I wanted to be able to talk to you guys about today. because in reality, if we wouldn't have had that $49 million added into our assessed value last year, the compensating rate, it would have been 0.243. It still would have been a decrease from the previous year's rate. Not as substantial, but accurate. So, I hesitate to leave it at 0.198 and not have any kind, like if we just leave everything the same, because I know that 198 number was based on inaccurate information. So there's no reason to stay with that number when I know it's wrong.
When we got these figures last year, did we ask questions as to why it was 300% more than prior years?
We thought it was because we saw the real estate value explode as well. Our assessment went up, so we were thinking it was.
Inventory and finished goods are not real estate.
I agree with you.
But we didn't ask questions?
Nope. Don't worry, things will change. Yep.
Mayor, before we ask a bunch more questions, can you kind of walk us through what the next steps are here and what your plan is?
Well, the plan is we made a recommendation based on the numbers that are put in front of us, asking a tremendous amount of questions to the PVA, trying to get answers as to what is right, what is wrong. The certified rolls that we have from 2024 is the best information that we have that they can provide us. So therefore, that is what we need to be able to make a decision based on. We can't fix last year. When will we make the decision on the tax rate? We need to figure out what we're doing, and we need to have a first reading next Tuesday and then a second reading the first Tuesday of September, our council meeting. Sherry's drop dead date is September 10th. Right, Sherry?
Sorry, I just keep thinking of more questions. How do we know we can trust any of the data? I mean, I'm so frustrated with this because we have to have something that we can trust. And I feel like the more I hear, we're missing people from the tax rolls. I mean, it's so frustrating to me that we can't trust any of the data. I'm now looking at 2024 and saying, well, what can we go by that?
I'll tell you what I had to do yesterday.
It's 2024. We've got to do better. I'm not saying that to anyone here. I'm saying that to the people who provide us this data. It's 2024. This has got to be a more automated system and we can trust the data. I'm very, very disappointed.
Join the club. Yes.
Mayor, I think, given the fact that you just got this information within the last 24 hours, I think you are to be commended to some point, that you've taken the time to figure some of this stuff out and try to get as many answers as you can. I know that's not easy, and I know this wasn't the plan for this evening, was to unveil this surprise. It hasn't been the plan up until yesterday. So I definitely appreciate the work that you've put into trying to catch us up to speed and to try to present a plan moving forward.
Well, I I guess if there is a silver lining, even with the tax rates that we've proposed, it's still bringing in additional revenue than we budgeted for. So our budget was for $3.5 million in real property, and with the .247, it brings in $3.9 million. With the budgeted for tangible, it was a budgeted amount of $724,000, and the .247 recommended rate brings in $401,000. So it still is bringing in $45,000 more if you net the two.
Can you send that information? Because I didn't really have time to jot all that down. I mean, I know I could look it up on the budget and everything, but that's not on. It is? Okay, sorry.
If you take the 2024 budget at the bottom and then compare it to the 247, so if you take the total amount of 4.8 million subtracted by the 4.86.
Sorry, I just wasn't.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I figured it was in front of me. I just wasn't looking in the right place. So, okay. Okay.
So the goal was still to bring in what we had budgeted. And the tax rates that I've recommended to you are the same. So the property tax and the tangible tax rate would be the same, probably for the first time in maybe ever. And it would bring in just slightly over what we budgeted for. So we'd be able to meet that expectation. Hence why those are the recommendations.
I kind of feel like, and I mean, obviously we've just now been handed all this, so I haven't had a lot of time to digest it, so, but by going with the .247 on the tangible, I kind of feel like we're punishing the businesses that we are taxing because we're missing others. We're kind of, well, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
But think about it, last year, based on the information that we were provided, we gave a really steep tax decrease. So I get what you're saying. It just has to balance out at some point. Because we're not going to go back, we're not going to retro and fix the tax rate from last year.
We're still going to have those omitted
Yes.
revenue coming eventually is, redressed back to us.
Correct.
So what, I'm not really thrilled about a tax increase, given that we didn't ask questions when there was such a variance last year. I'm not going to support a tax increase. So what would it look like to not increase the tax? What kind of a lift would that be to our current budget?
We have that.
That's the next column over. So if you take the 4.8 that's in the budget, and then the column that has the 247/.198, and that total is 4.7. So that would be an additional $35,463 over the fiscal year 24 budget. I'm sorry, 25 budget. My date's wrong on the. It's really 2025. I'm still in calendar year 24 though.
I feel like there's an opportunity to find $35,000 in the budget and cut it, so that we don't raise the taxes on our business community due to a blunder by the county and the fact that we didn't ask questions last year. So that's my opinion.
So you are saying just keep it at the .198? I'm fine with that if that's what you want to do.
I'm not going to support a tax increase, even if it's nominal to our business community. They've done nothing.
I know.
They've done nothing wrong in this. No, even if there's no rationale, in my opinion, that would justify an increase, even with the blunder, when it's as nominal as $40,000 to find in our budget. We've done tremendous work to decrease those rates year over year.
Is it only 40?
35,000.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, in 2022, 2023, the tax rate was 0.296. And then last year, we dropped it to 0.198. I mean, it was a 33% drop in the tax rate. It was huge. It was the biggest tax rate decrease we've ever had here. If we went with the 0.247, it would still be 16% less than it was in 2022, 2023. I wouldn't look at I mean, I know it is a tax rate increase, but with the understanding that we were working off bad data last year, you know, it's still, the tax rate is less than it was in 2022, 2023 by 16%. I mean, it's still a pretty significant tax drop. Yeah. You know, we have this one outlier year where people got kind of a bonus on their tax rates, and now we're getting, what you're proposing would get us back to the norm, essentially. Still a tax rate decrease.
Yeah. Yeah. Vicki?
I would be, since Mr. Hermes just brought that up, I would be for like meeting in the middle. So the difference is 0.049. So if you take 0.25, let's say, and add it to the 0.198, you would come out with 0.123. We'd still be lower than we were in the year that he was talking about, and just raising it a small smidgen. I don't know if people would agree with that or not, but it might solve the problem, sort of.
Vicki, what was your amount? I don't have that calculated right now, so would I?
I got, let's see, what did I do here?
The other thing
It's 0.223, I'm sorry. Would be in the middle, unless my math is off. Yeah.
Let me tell you, this is the last thing I wanted to be able to bring to you guys.
My question is, who's going to take the complaints if businesses see that we've raised it, you know, and who's going to explain to them everything that happened? Is it going to be Sherry? Poor Sherry.
Well, I mean, this isn't going to be helpful, but Darlene offered, you know, writing a letter, getting something out on social media about the issue. Like, I said, let's talk about that after we figure out what we're going to do. Yep. Unless she's offering a check for $35,000, I mean. She's actually offering a check for $40,000 that we don't have to pay our PVA.
So why aren't we doing that and just not raising taxes?
Well, that's going to pay the $97,000 that we have to pay back.
Oh, that's fair.
We'll take whatever she offers.
Oh, yes, we will.
Never say no to money.
Yeah. So we typically pay them $40,000 to give us these numbers.
Can we get back what we paid last year, too?
Oh, that's a great idea.
All they can do is say no. I'm not afraid to ask.
Kara's not afraid to ask either. Neither am I.
With Vicki's tangible of .223, that would bring in $6,034 over what's budgeted. So,
see, I was just trying to get us to a dollar amount that equals what we had budgeted. But if you all are not concerned about that, then that's fine. We can roll with the .198 and just leave it the way that it is, and we'll figure it out. I thought you guys would be more concerned with us not hitting the recommended, or the budget revenues, but I was just trying to guess what you guys wanted. Yeah.
Personally, I am not as, excuse me, not as worried or concerned about not hitting that budget number, being that there's all these omitted businesses that are hanging out there, and I think some of them are some of the largest businesses in Erlanger.
Yeah.
So I have pretty hopeful, I guess more than hopeful, I'm pretty confident that we're going to make that up.
Oh, yeah. I'm confident about it, too. I just don't have the number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I echo Mr. Hermes. I think that when we look at, when we have our receivables and we reevaluate in January and look at a budget amendment like we typically have at the beginning of the year, I think we'll be having a different conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not at all worried about us not hitting our budget figure, but I'm firmly against an increase, even if it's fractional, like it is right now. So.
Okay. So are you guys cool if we roll with 247 for property and .198 for tangible? All right. Are you guys all okay coming back here next Tuesday? Yeah.
How long of a meeting will it be? Only because I have a child's birthday that day, and
It will be long enough for Mr. Gatlin to read the little paragraph.
so it's just it'll just be a special meeting.
It's just,
obviously.
yeah, special meeting.
So just one
and
thing.
it's just a first reading.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Sherry will note it in the minutes, and then we'll dismiss. So it'll be a whole 5 minutes. Is that cool? You guys good with that? Do you want to do it earlier? Okay. Tuesday, 7 o'clock, first reading. Brilliant. Thank you all. I don't even know. All right, next item on the agenda is Councilman Tyson Hermes, Certificate of Need.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We talked about this, or actually, I talked to Councilwoman Kyle about bringing it up at the last meeting, since I was not able to be here, to have it put on the caucus for this meeting, or this caucus meeting, excuse me. And, I was thinking about the resolution that we'd put together to support the legislation in Frankfurt. Initially, we were talking about repealing the certificate of need, and we had some of the meetings here in this council chambers that had quite a few people in attendance, and there were people for and against this. We modified the language of that resolution to try to improve the certificate of need, but not necessarily repeal it. It's been almost 18 months now, and thought it would be good for us to discuss what happened and if there's anything that we should be doing as a city moving forward to try to help produce that reform to the certificate of need. And I thought there would be no one better to talk about it than Mary Ann Proctor, the champion of the certificate of need legislation in Frankfurt. So I'd love to turn the floor over to you, Mary Ann, if you're willing to give us an update.
Do you have a question?
I do. I don't know why we're discussing this.
Okay, well,
Can I finish? So I don't know why we're discussing this again. This is not a city issue. Caucuses are supposed to be about legislation for the city. And while I fully personally support this matter, unless Mr. Hermes is going to propose new legislation related to this, I don't see why we're discussing this at a caucus meeting. We typically do not allow other people to speak at our caucus meetings. If Mr. Hermes is so passionate about this, maybe he needs to run for another office where he can have more say about this. But I really don't understand why this is being discussed. A simple Google search could find what happened during the legislative session.
All right.
Ms. Proctor, Representative Proctor doesn't even represent anyone in Erlanger.
Ms. Jasper Lucas, while I understand your point of view, I also understand that you are only one of 9 individuals, and there were a couple of people that were interested in discussing this. Okay, and this is a caucus meeting. It is a discussion meeting. And if there is potential legislation that is proposed, then this is the moment that it would be discussed.
Well, I think that Mr. Hermes uses his position here.
I think it is not needed for further discussion.
And you had 2 council members who also said in an email that this did not need to be discussed either.
Ms. Jasper Lucas, while you have made your opinion abundantly clear, your opinion is not the only one that matters in this council chambers. I don't know who is first. Ms. Kyle, Mr. Cahill, which one?
Ms. Kyle can go.
Okay, well, this is my point of view, and I know that we as a city cannot pass legislation on the certificate of need. I understand that, and it was a resolution, not a municipal order, so I stand corrected. I'm sorry. But anyway, that night, if you recall, this chambers was filled with citizens. They're coming to us, asking us to change this. I can't count how many people have come since then to me and says, what's going on? So I think, you know, as a council, we want to discuss it and get some input from Frankfurt, which we're trying to do now, and I don't see the harm in it. That way we can at least tell our citizens, yeah, we're fighting for you. You know, we're seeing what's happening. So we can call down there and express our opinion to our representatives.
Mr. Cahill.
So we did express our opinions. We did put a resolution out there. This does affect 3 employers in the city of Erlanger. I think we should keep that in consideration. One of the employers has over 900 employees, $600,000 in payroll taxes, and 300 residents in there. And my count, what I had from last time, is that a majority of the people that were against this, that we voted for the resolution, did not live or work in the city of Erlanger. So, not sure why we're beating this horse again. Thank you.
Continue.
Yes, I'd like to give a warm Erlanger welcome to Mary Ann Proctor, if you wouldn't mind giving us an update.
Well, thank you for having me back, and I'll keep it brief. And I hear you when you say I don't represent Erlanger. You're correct, but I also work closely with Representative Dome, who does represent this area, and he shares the passion that I do on Certificate of Need. So just wanted to update you on what happened. I went around to the various cities, got a lot of input, worked with a lot of our stakeholders. In response to that, I did file modified bills instead of full repeal. Targeted services that the Commonwealth was commissioned with in 2013 with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act to look at where we were deficient. And the health facility capacity report in 2013 said that the state of Kentucky was deficient in mental health, ambulatory surgical centers, and ambulances, home health services, and outpatient rehabilitation services, just to name a few. Mental health in 2013, we were 50% deficient then. Here we are in 2024, and the General Assembly never responded to those recommendations that we need to lift the certificate of need for those particular services, probably due to outside forces. So in response to studies that were already done and really looking at what's going on in Kentucky, I think it's difficult to say that we have enough mental health treatment services, that we have enough chemical dependency, that we have enough outpatient rehabilitation, home health. We don't. So I did file that bill this year that wasn't picked up. What was done this year, House Bill 204, this bill was really a simple bill. It was very clear for the constituents to understand and for the legislators to understand. What it did, it removed a competitor veto. So when you go through the substantial review for a certificate of need, it is a 9-step process. It is a lengthy process, and it's akin to having a full jury trial. On this, all we simply put on there is what the applicant, so if a new healthcare provider is coming in, whether they want to have MRIs, they want to have hospitals, ambulatory surgical centers, ambulances, whatever it might be, that the competitor cannot sue them out, because we've seen what that happens. So there's 2 stages in this 9-step substantious review that the application you must still show to the state the need for a service. You must still go through this 9-step process. You still must pay all of these fees and go through this evaluation and meet the health plan set up by the state to have the criteria. Then the health cabinet makes that decision on whether they grant that certificate of need or not. Now, what this bill did is eliminated a competitor veto on step 3 and step 9. So it allows a new applicant a level playing field to be able to enter the market, because when somebody sues, often the new applicant withdraws. It is an expensive process, as we have seen. Not so recent history, we saw that happen, where we didn't lose out on a competitor that wanted to come in because they did obtain the certificate of need from the state, but they were sued at the appellate level and lost. And then because it already cost $1.25 million in 3.5 years to fight this battle, they gave up. And so what we're seeing is that, this isn't just a Northern Kentucky problem, although we are impacted by it. You look at our Tri-County area, we have more population than Lexington, but they have a multitude of healthcare providers, and we have one. Louisville has many. Even downstate, some have more than we do. But it really affects all of Kentucky, and we're seeing some of the areas like rural that are hurt the most by limiting services. So the argument has been, well, if you bring in competition, it's going to drive out other people, especially in our rural. The data doesn't support that, and any business model doesn't support that. You're not going to go invest capital into something that's going to be a losing proposition. So that just doesn't really be a valid argument. So I don't know why this was so controversial. I really thought of the 3, this was really the least. All it really did was streamline the process for a new entrant to come in. It allowed them representation to have a hearing, and it allowed representation if they were given an unfavorable review from the cabinet, that they were able to have legal representation for that. That's all it did. So it streamlined the process, and it really gave a level playing field. It was heard in the Health Committee, and it failed. 13 of the members of there said that, well, we needed to hear more information from the task force. The task force resolution was filed in the Senate. It was not passed on by the chair of the Senate, and so there is no task force this summer on it. So I've already had a hearing in L&O this year on it, on this same bill. Going to run it again so that people can understand what it is. And really, the reason why we were told the task force wasn't reestablished was because they felt like that's what we should be doing in the interim. We're down there every month, and that's what these interim hearings should be for, without creating a whole nother level of bureaucracy. So that's why I'm bringing it again. Erlanger did not stand alone on this. Actually, other cities like Covington, that has the largest footprint, they also did a resolution, as did Fort Wright and Walton. So, you know, yes, I'm coming to Erlanger asking, do you support this type of legislation that eliminates a competitor veto, understanding that's all it does? It's still, you still have to change a process. It changes nothing in the steps of the certificate of need. It changes nothing in that substantive review other than eliminating the competitor veto.
I guess, sorry.
Question, yeah, I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, I guess when we talked about it last year, or however many months ago, it was a very broad, you know, we started with repeal, but then we talked about reform. And I don't know if that's really the best way to approach it. Maybe understanding what is truly an opportunity for reform, and what is the view of Erlanger City Council, and then, you know, if it's something as simple as the veto, getting rid of the veto, that House Bill 204, maybe we do a more targeted resolution on, yeah, guys, this is some basic reform that we can get behind, and can we get other cities behind it more than just Covington and those that Mary Ann just talked about. So having more of a targeted instead of this big giant blanket of reform. Well, what does that mean? And it gets very easily lost if you don't understand the intricacies of the 9-step process. So I don't know, getting us all more familiar with how it works, I don't think is a bad idea, because there is no process that is perfect. Everything needs to be improved and changed in some fashion. So if we can figure out some little change that can make a positive impact in any kind of way, then why wouldn't we sit here and discuss that? Why wouldn't we be able to get people on board with it? So I appreciate you expressing, you know, the support for the House Bill 204 and explaining that in a little more detail. And I would hope that now that we have this information from Mary Ann, let's go do our own information gathering. Let's try to understand it fully and see if this is something that we want to discuss further, see if this is something that we do want to pass a resolution to support, see if this is something we want to go to other municipalities and get their support behind it as well. Maybe just taking a little step in the right direction is at least some kind of movement. Vicki or Tyson?
I would just want clarification. I don't know how many years ago this was, but Christ Hospital wanted to build on the Drawbridge Inn site, and were they denied because of the veto of St. Elizabeth's? Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's what I thought, yeah. See, I would be all for what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, Marion, just so I'm using the right terminology, there are, I always refer to it as like a sieve that you have to be able to pass through. There's 30 different sieves, or what would you call each one of those steps?
I would call those 9 obstacles. It's a very rigorous process to go through, because you have to meet the state health plan. You have to be able to show the need, and that's the biggest thing you have to do for the cabinet. And there's these applications that you go through and the hearings that you have to go through, but it's a 9-step complicated process. You can look at it on the state health plan. You can, on the Cabinet's Health and Family Services, they have it on there. But just to briefly summarize, it's just 9 steps, but it's a very thorough review. So it's puzzling to me why we allow the veto, because we do that with healthcare, which is arguably our most important thing, where if we had that with hamburgers, people would be incensed if they only had one place, or if you only had one place to go for any service. We know that when you have more choices, that it results in better quality, affordability, and more accessibility. And no, I don't represent Erlanger, but I get notes from your constituents every day, the things I get, because I feel like I'm the only voice that hears them.
So other states have a shorter process? They don't have the 9-step process? Or is it still a 9-step process in Ohio and Indiana?
It's different for other states. So there's other states that still have certificate of need. I believe the number is 34. But if you look at Ohio and Indiana, they have one restriction on certificate of need, and that is their certificate of need is on long-term care. In Kentucky, we have over 30 healthcare services and technologies that are regulated by certificate of need. It is by far one of the most egregious in the United States. We have more than even a state like Illinois, where you have places like California that doesn't have certificate of need. Other places have repealed it. But if we're trying to be competitive, and certainly in this tri-state area, when you have Ohio and Indiana that only have one certificate of need, and it's on long-term care. Tennessee, I believe, has 6 on theirs, and West Virginia has been actively repealing them. I believe last year they repealed the certificate of need for freestanding birthing centers. The trend is that people are getting rid of it. As we've already discussed, the federal government repealed this back in 1986. Our Federal Trade Commission everybody has said it's a bad idea underneath Republican and Democrat administrations. It's not a red-blue issue. This truly is a fiscal issue. Recently, South Carolina just did a full repeal except for long-term care, and that's complicated because of the funding, which is, I imagine, why people live that in there. I'm not even asking that. I'm just asking, can we give people who want to come into the state of Kentucky, can we give them a level playing field? Because when there is somebody who's going to sue, the cabinet often defers to the established provider and then will deny it, and without it really even being fair. So it just expedites the process, and it makes it far less costly for somebody who want to come into the state.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right. All right. So I would ask if you can send us additional information on House Bill 204 so that we can understand it fully and do our own level of research, and then maybe figure out if we're going to discuss it in a future caucus meeting, okay?
Happy to. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thanks. All right. Next item up for discussion is the tattoo shop mixed-use zone. Mark?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. I want to acknowledge a guest that we have today, Brett Smith, who is asking council to authorize the mayor to allow us to apply for a text amendment for his business. So I'll give a brief update on what the request would be, and then what council then will have to consider, and then allow you guys to ask some questions to either myself or Mr. Smith. So he is an Erlanger resident. He operates a business right now across the river. He's wanting to come into Erlanger and specifically set up shop in a current vacant storefront in a mixed-use zone. It's where Stam's Meats is right now. So that has been vacant for quite some time. 15 years. Thank you, Mr. Smith. He has provided me a schematic, a letter of support from the owner of that facility that would allow this use to potentially come into that space. What it would require is council to authorize the mayor to place an application in front of the Kenton County Planning Commission. It would then go there. If they have a favorable recommendation, it would come back, be read here twice before its passage. This would only apply to the mixed-use zone currently across the street. It would be a permitted use there. There is an apply use specific standard on that type of business right now. And the way that our zone code reads is that you can't have another one within 500 feet. Because it's our only mixed use zone, that would mean that this would only apply to that specific zone in this specific area. Before I allow Mr. Smith to introduce himself, at the podium, I'll take any questions, or you can just ask Mr. Smith if you've got any specific to him.
So this is just an application for him for the mix. That's it, all we're voting on?
Yeah, so what the way that this would work would be Jack would prepare an MO that would go in front of council likely next month. That MO would authorize us to make that application to the Kenton County Planning Commission for the text amendment.
All right. Where are you working at now? Yeah.
I currently work at a shop in Clifton, Cincinnati called Born to Lose, and it's what we would name the spot over there. It's me and all the guys. We're just trying to move to this side.
All right, cool.
I know this is super serious considering everything that you guys talked about tonight, so I'm just saying. I appreciate your time.
Mr. Smith, do you want to give a little bit more history on?
I've been tattooing since 2012. It's the only thing I've done professionally since then. I haven't had any other jobs. I've put all my eggs in that basket. I work hard. I'm a simple tradesman, and I just want to be able to walk to work and be close to my family and provide valuable culture to the area. You know, I've never done this, so I don't know if there's other questions. I'd love to answer them. I don't know what you want me to say. What's up?
Me, I think that we should let him do it, and good luck.
I appreciate it.
Sounds like you want to start a business, you want to do it in Erlanger, and because you live here, you want to work here. Great.
I appreciate that.
Are you going to be open full-time over here, or will you be splitting your time between Cincinnati and here?
We would be shutting down shop over there, and I'd be full-time over here, and it would be open to the public. It wouldn't be like an appointment-only thing. It would be a very classic walk-in tattoo shop, come as you are. Everybody's invited. You know, it's...
We know you just really want to be right next to this officer at a mayor's stop.
I do. I do. It's a nice spot. I like the eagle on the sign. It's pretty sweet.
So just from a legal perspective, so the resolution that we would have next week, or not next week's the special meeting, and our next regular meeting would be that we would be applying to the Kenton County Planning Commission to add as a permitted use tattoo to the mixed use. That would be what the ad would be.
Ms. Rickers.
So it's not on a case-by-case basis, we're modifying the...
The request that's being made is of a text amendment, because right now, in the mixed-use zone, it is not a permitted or conditional use.
Gotcha. Do we need to do a straw vote now?
And you may have said this before, is that the only mixed-use zone that we have in the city is right over there on Erlanger Road?
That's right.
Okay.
Ms. Jesper Lucas.
Sorry, how did we end up with one mixed-use zone in all of Erlanger?
Because it took the place of Commonwealth Station.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm like, how in the world did we, but I know when we went through the Z21 stuff, there was some things that we discovered after the fact that were sort of odd. So, okay, this might be one of them. Okay, thanks. I'm fine with this. I don't know if we need to do a straw poll or not, but I'm good with it.
Mr. Hermes.
No, I didn't have a question. I was just saying, if we're going to have a straw poll, I'm happy to hold my hand up.
I will have a resolution ready for the next regular meeting.
All right.
Cool. Thanks,
job,
y'all.
dude.
I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next item up for discussion, marketing updates with Mark.
Yep, that's me again. This one's a little light and fluffy. So hopefully you guys have seen some of the video updates that we've done, some of the improved social media photography that our team has done. I just wanted to provide a deliverables calendar that we have planned out with our marketing team and contracted folks, and also to sort of tease the need for all of council. I would like to eventually include each of
of you in some of our different marketing efforts. You're going to have to take the spotlight away from Chief Rader. He loves being on the video, and he has gotten a lot of commentary about that. So, Chief, thank you for your willingness to participate. In all seriousness, I did attend a Florence Business Council meeting last week and had many people that did not know that we were, putting an effort forward on the marketing front, note that improved presence on social media. So just wanted to have you guys see the calendar, the schematic, the plan that we have in place. This will take us into January, is what has been budgeted so far. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that and know that asks are going to be coming. Ms. Ruckers.
So the Cahill Commons ribbon cutting is the 7th? The 7th, but this says that the deliverable it doesn't align with.
Yeah, so some of this is fluid. We did get with Mr. Cahill, our marketing person did contact him. So we're going to be doing some filming of interviews before the actual groundbreaking or ribbon cutting is going to take place. We'll have him on site to capture some video and some photos as well, and then we'll put that together very, very nicely. So yeah, some of these timelines are a little bit off. And one specifically, I know Mayor Fetty talked about this at the mayor's group meeting this week, but I'll note as well, the groundbreaking for our Erlanger Road Park project is incorrect on this deliverable calendar as well. We're going to push that into October. Any other questions? Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, do I entertain a motion we adjourn? Mr. Eckers, Mr. Hermes, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.